Greetings, YouTube. I wish you had seen my reaction to the in-game message that just hit the phone. I was drinking something, watching a sports talk show, and I spit out my drink, my poor, poor couch, because the headline caught me so off guard that it really shook me. And I'm very curious to hear so many people's responses. I'm sure my Line app inbox is blowing up right now, because the premise of the headline is not only against everything Kabam has told us they were going to do for 4 or 5 years, but if they screw this up, you would see more people leaving the game faster than at any other point, because this would be like patch 12.0 all over again times 10. But the opposite is true if the quote-unquote balance of the game really is just a way to make a bunch of useless trash older champs, like what we've seen with Colossus and Old Man Logan, better. So you're not hurting the best champs, you're just making the worst champs better. And we know that the worst champs are typically older champions that were around before the meta of the game really evolved. And because of that, a lot of people have these champions already, so it's not like you're only making the good new champions the best and everybody else worthless, which, to be honest, so many champions in this game are pretty much worthless unless you're talking about arena points. So let's read this together and dissect it. Trying to take a deep breath. Summoners, the contest is constantly evolving. We're adding a regular stream of new champions, new features, new abilities, and new synergies. Each new champion or feature changes the balance of the game. Such a Thanos-like line. New and existing champions need to be regularly reviewed and balanced to ensure that they are all great additions to your roster. I would definitely change that wording to old and trash champions need to be regularly reviewed and balanced to ensure that they are all great additions to your roster. Starting in October of 2019, so that is 2 months away, we will be moving to smaller, more frequent balance updates for our champions. What to expect? 3 months after a champion is released, we'll have reviewed and analyzed their data. If it needs a small balance up or down, the downward is the scary word. It's the dumb word. It's how are you supposed to go for a new champion that seems OP like Neymar or Cole Obsidian, for example, if you know there's a chance that his abilities are going to be nerfed in 3 months? This only makes sense if it's the opposite. This only makes sense if it needs a small balance up. We will notify the player base before it enters into the basic crystal pool of champions. But that's huge, because if you spend, and some people do, literally hundreds or thousands of dollars to get the new featured champion, because Kabam took away our ability to get them, especially for free-to-play players, in the old-fashioned way where they would hit the 5-star featured crystal when they were introduced, and then if you hoarded, say, 90 to 150,000 5-star shards, you would just hopefully land that 1 out of 5, 20% RNG for that champion. They've made it to where you either have to grind your life away in the arena, or you have to spend a crazy amount of money or get insanely lucky on featured Grandmaster or featured Cavalier crystals. So you're telling the player base, we have moved this to pay to win, but if you think you are getting a product, you might actually get a worse version of that product. If there's a chance that this champion, no matter how hyped up they are, is going to get worse in 3 months, then you are totally negating the purchase of that champion. And this is also in line with Kabam taking over for actual cases where you're contacting the Apple support or the Google Play support and saying, hey, I deserve my money back because I paid for something that isn't actually performing as advertised. This is one of those cases where in the past, if you told Apple that was the case, they would refund all of your money. And if you don't believe me, I know several people who got thousands of dollars refunded because of perceived champion downgrades. And I'm not trying to endorse stealing money from a company. That's don't hear me wrong. But I am saying if you purchase something because of the advertised abilities and then those abilities are no longer what you paid for, that is getting ripped off and hurting the consumer by damaging the product. That's just economics. That is just marketing, plain and simple. Approximately 3 months later, any changes made will have been tested and then released to the community. This new balance cadence will be limited to minor balancing of a champion's existing kit. Abilities won't be added or removed if a champion needs a rework. That champion will be addressed separately, and any compensation will be handled on a case-by-case basis. Yes, but compensation doesn't include cash. I don't care what you're getting as somebody who spent hundreds or thousands of dollars on a champ. If that champion is worse than what you paid for, unless they give you a cash refund, which they're not going to do, it's not going to be anywhere close to the compensation that you deserve. For example, if a champion is underperforming as an attacker, we may choose to boost the potency of their Fury or Cruelty effects. See, in this case, I am all for it. If you're going to make a middle-of-the-tier champ, like, say, Diablo, better, great. These kind of beta tests, especially for older champions like Colossus and Old Man Logan, I think everybody should be on board with because so many people already have them and they're underperforming. It's the overperforming aspect of it that really, really is a slippery slope that worries me for the future of this game. We will continue to do the larger reworks and won't be reducing their frequency. We're all excited about the upcoming Colossus and Old Man Logan reworks this fall. This is just the start, and our goal is to move to continue to improve older champions to increase the value players see in their existing roster. Okay, that last line is fantastic. If we could just have this last line be what this is about, then this is good news for everybody. Because especially those of you who've been playing for years like myself, you have a lot of 5 stars and maybe even 6 stars because the 6-star pool is largely trash that you can't use. Somebody like a Deadpool X-Force desperately needs a rework. And this is great. The only line in this that really worries me when you scroll up is when you see them saying that it is a up or down. This second point, if it needs a small balance up or down, we will notify the player base. The idea of the down is exposing the fact that they didn't test that champion properly, something that this company has been very terrible at for a long time. Because they probably didn't want Domino or maybe even Corvus or Ghost to be as OP as they were, because it makes no sense given their justification for why they nerfed Scarlet Witch or OG Thor or champions like Doctor Strange to the freaking ground during patch 12.0, because they brought up the same logic. We're going to balance the game. Balancing the game is code for balancing their checkbook. They don't want a champion that's so good that you're not going to be forced to ever buy revives or potions or units because they can clear all content. That's why bugs that are lasting for months in the game don't just magically go away because they help Kabam. That's also why you may see over and over again examples of Kabam refusing to put better 5-star champions into the 6-star champion pool because they're afraid that putting even an Iceman or Medusa or a Gwenpool as a 6-star would imbalance it, even though it's not. They're still afraid to put a 5-star Scarlet Witch or Wolverine into the game. That's how worried they are about having champions that take away their bottom line. And look, I get they are a for-profit company. They should be about making money, but not at the expense of screwing over the player base. So let's hope, as an optimistic sort of look, that this announcement is mostly to ramp up all of the champions on the list that the community voted for as a need to get better. Champions like Hulkbuster, champions like Venompool, Kamala Khan, Groot, for crying out loud, right? Get those champions to be better. But let this not be an example of them trying to say, well, you know, it turns out Neymar and Cole Obsidian, yeah, they're better than we thought they'd be, so we're going to make them less effective, especially after people have spent hundreds or thousands of dollars of their hard-earned money, or even just units they've hoarded for a champion that gets worse. And because Kabam now owns the right for refunds, your chance of seeing that cash is gone. So, really, what's the end takeaway from this, especially in regards to newer champions? I would not spend much money unless you're just super confident that it would be almost impossible to nerf a champion to where they're not used, like the likes of Namor or Cole Obsidian, when they first come out. Because they're asking the community to do their testing, which they should do on their own for them. And then if the community whines, and there are those people, we know them, we hate them, who every time something is pro player, they turn over to Kabam's forums. Oh, you better clean this up. The PHC Crystal is given too many 4 stars. Or there's a revive that people are taking advantage of on Act 5. Or, blah, blah, blah. We've seen those changes. The snitches. The snitches don't need to control whether or not a champion is too OP. In fact, hyping a champion up is one of the best things that can happen to Kabam's pocketbook. It is better for them to keep producing amazing champions than it is to make you fear that that amazing champion might get worse in about 3 months. It's a slippery slope, so let's hope it is not down to a champion's ability, but strictly up, particularly with old trash champions. But we will remain vigilant, and I will remain vigilant in making these videos and calling them out when I see fit, because this could be a really great thing for the community, but also a slippery slope. So keep an eye out, YouTube. We're in this together. Let's hope it's for the best.